let's be honest, like I'm never gonna suffer that much, right? I'm never gonna know exactly what that is. But if I have to tend in one direction, I'm gonna tend with the people rather than with the oppressor. You know?
The one yogi that I remember coming over in the 40s came over after Betty Grable or some type of Hollywood starlet discovered yoga, and that's how, you know, he come here to teach her, and then everybody's a yogi now.
Got it.
But you know, a lot of people are now just discovering that Quincy Jones, Rosa Parks, they were all yogis, you know what I'm saying? So John Coltrane and his wife. So, you know, like all of these things are now just becoming, you know, because you have the internet. But they think about it, if we didn't have that, we still would be sleepwalking. We would have no idea. We would still be trying to get to Santa Monica and get down with, you know, Mandy and that, you know, and that vinyasa flow instead of trying to find our own flow, which is what a lot of people are doing now.
So you're talking about the 70s as a joyful time in your memory.
Yeah.
What was joyful about it?
It was community.
Yeah.
The community
Right here.
was together. All right here. All right here. If you just walk down this street here, make a left, you'll see this beautiful park. You'll see all of these beautiful homes. Just walking through here, you'll see it. This is actually this suburban community.
Right. But in 2019, when people say South LA, they think the ghetto. They think black folk. They start thinking in danger terms.
Right.
But what the center of this was love.
It was community.
Really love for you.
Right. We migrated from Texas and Mississippi and whatever. What migrated were families. My grandmother, her home was that refuge.
Right.
So it's like the whole reason for the tree for me is to be able to provide that same type of refuge that my grandmother did for people in the community who had no place to go.
So that loving space is something you're trying to recreate.
Yes.
Yoga's got a brand in America.
Yes.
And the brand tied to India was never tied to white women.
Never.
It was never tied to women at all, really. I mean,
no.
When you just said that you go into like a white yoga space and you're a woman, but they expect a white woman.
And a small white woman. You cannot be in a bigger body.
Right.
The more colored you are, the more melanin you have, the more discriminatory and racist and downright ridiculous people can be.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my mentor, you know, she is a world-renowned meditation leader, and she still has people get up and walk out of her sessions when they find out that she is a black woman and of darker skin. And she's bald, and she's almost, you know, so there's like all of these other things. You don't look like what I should be coming to pay for or what I expected. So that's the first problem. You have expectations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a well described process in Japanese pottery where special pieces of pottery, when they're broken, right, they are repaired with precious metal.
Wow.
And they're more beautiful for the places where they have been broken and repaired. And so that's this idea of shattering, reconnecting, but then being post-traumatic growth, being stronger.
Post-traumatic growth.
Right. I mean, people describe it different ways, but one of the ways it can be described is a rupture.
Yeah.
Right? There's some kind of, whether it's a physical rupture, an emotional rupture, your spiritual beliefs, some kind of rupture of how things are never the same afterwards, right? And when it's intense and we need to survive, we often can disconnect from ourselves to be in a survival mode. So we disconnect from parts of ourselves to be in survival mode.
Yeah.
And so as we heal, it's about reconnecting to those pieces.
Yeah. Aren't we born out of trauma? I mean,
Not
is
always.
childbirth trauma?
Not always.
Okay, tell me.
Not always.
Yeah.
It can be intense, but it doesn't have to be traumatizing, right? Like, an experience can be intense, but if you're supported through it,
Right.
you're not alone through it, it's not traumatizing. It's just intense.
It's intense and you're vulnerable in a moment, but the idea is to wrap you around with love and care so that the healing happens.
Right. So the transformation, so you can transform. You're safe, you trust, you're in a trusting environment, and then the transformation happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's not per se traumatic.
Right.
And so when you work with people at that level to help them do that, right? When they reconnect to their humanness, how they operate in their relationships with other people, how they operate as parents, as partners, as friends, sisters, brothers, bosses, how they operate is more human, and they will humanize the system.
Yeah.
And then as the system is more human, it creates conditions for more trauma healing. And so working at both of those levels is really important.
So what I'm trying to get at is the word work itself belongs to a capitalist system where we think that by pushing we're going to get there. First of all, there's nowhere to go. Secondly, pushing works for like birth probably, and then there's other times
Well,
where...
no, it only works for part of birth.
Right, for part of birth.
The other part is complete acceptance.
Tell me about that.
And submission to the process.
Tell me
And so
about
that's about knowing when to push. Like if you push when you should be relaxing, you're going to block the process. I really see becoming trauma-informed as a social justice movement.
Absolutely.
Right? We're very lucky. We now have an Office of Violence Prevention in the county, and the folks who have been putting it together are so open to community dialogue. Like they're actually not writing the strategic plan until there's a community advisory council set up to provide input.
And they really listen?
I've never seen it before like this, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think it's unique to us here. I think it's happening elsewhere, but it's really special right now because people are aware of it, the impact of trauma, the importance of resilience, and there's some money coming behind it to make changes. But these are big systems. We have over 10 million people in our county.
Right.
So when we're talking about a Department of Mental Health, I mean, this is a huge system. It's not like agile and lean, like boom. So I've had the fortune to work with my team on a trauma prevention initiative, which is for a place-based initiative for 4 places in Los Angeles that have the highest amount of ER admissions for assault of various different kinds, right? And we are working on a trauma-informed development of people with lived experience of whatever the trauma is, how those people come into the work and inform the work around whether it's gang violence or sexual assault or trafficking. These survivors come in and do the work and inform the organizations and the initiatives.
Right.
And so that's the group that I've been working with.
Right. What does it look like to be a trauma-informed society? What does it look like to be a trauma-informed
I can't even imagine yet. I mean, even in our organization, right?
Yeah.
Because there's trauma, like when you treat trauma in a therapeutic setting, right? That's a very gentle and different way. You can individualize, there's a lot of things you can do. But when you're at work, you have accountability structures. So how do you bring safety in and trust in and collaboration and mutuality, and how do you bring those principles in when there's accountability structures? Even like something I built this organization with other folks, and we struggle with it because let's say someone's having a lot of trauma pop off in their life or a lot of stress and they can't carry their load. How does that affect everyone else? And we want to understand that there's a lot going on for them, and also there's accountability structures. So we're figuring it out. If you only do people work, individual people work, right, they can do only so much healing because the system itself is so punishing. So it's going back and forth between the two. That is where I see the work that I'm doing is resourcing people, helping people learn to settle, helping people learn to settle so that they can reconnect to themselves, their own wisdom. The scale is long. This is a long, long scale.
What's that Lincoln quote? Time is a great thickener of things.
Time is a great thickener of things. Well, I'm gonna sit with that one.